always the case here too. When we come here, we gather for worship, we gather for fellowship too, the full fellowship time that we have, and receive communion to feel connected to God. We know something about each other. Look around, you have something in common with everybody here. And that's a great blessing coming together here for worship each Sunday. It's not true out in the world as much. No, you can't see people. We do try to size people up pretty quickly. There are those of us who take pride in being able to size someone up, tell everything about them very quickly, and that's not a bad gift to have. It's true that that's something we all tend to do as human beings. The social scientists tell us as we look at people, we're really good at very quickly putting them into the right person category or the wrong person category. And then we use that information, right? Either we're going to maybe get closer to them, maybe talk to them, maybe get further away. We're experts at this. And then social science says it comes to us very naturally. This ability to look at someone and size them up. Unfortunately, it's never worked perfectly. And in this day and age, it seems to be even worse, really, at working. Because, boy, somebody who looks just like us, which is what we tend to trust, are often, they have it in for us. They have something else going on. They have some other agenda. And the person who looks as far from us as possible, not like the kind of person we'd ever want to be with or hang out with, just their appearance, often they're the very best people. And we all know that. We've probably experienced a time or two with somebody whose appearance said one thing about them turns out to be something else. Well, maybe that's why Jesus was so good at approaching everyone, at seeking out all the people, and he would never, ever shy away from people just because of their appearance, just because everybody else is saying, don't be with them. These aren't the right kind of people. These are the wrong kind of people, right? Those are the two big categories, the right kind of people and the wrong kind of people. And Jesus always was drawn to the wrong kind of folks. And here we have the Pharisees pointing this out. Them looking at the people that Jesus was with and asking his disciples, why does he want to be with them? Why does he want to be with these people? After all, look at the people. This is me now, not the Pharisees. Look at the people that Jesus was hanging out with. All right, think of it in this way. Jesus was hanging out with traitors to their country. They had the Romans occupying them, and there were people there that were collaborating with the Romans collecting taxes. Jesus would meet with these people. Jesus would break bread with them. He would go to their homes, and he would sit with them and with their friends. And of course, since they had made this big mistake in their lives of collaborating with the enemy, they would often be in the company of others who had made other mistakes in their lives, who had done the wrong thing. Maybe they were criminals. Maybe they were prostitutes, scoundrels, cheats. And there they would be, and Jesus would be drawn to them. And he would sit with them, and he would eat with them, which is a big deal in our day. It was a huge deal back then. It was actually being willing to, who you're willing to break bread with is the people you're accepting kind of into your circle, into your community. And Jesus was willing to do that. And it goes against our rule that we often hear growing up, that I sure heard, and I have completely internalized in my life, and that's, you're known by the company you keep. You're known by the company that you keep. So if you're around people who are making bad choices, everybody's going to think you're making those bad choices. You're known by the places that you go. If you're in this place, then you're probably making some of the bad choices the people that are in that place are making. It's this idea of our, sort of feeds into our idea of respectability. I would want to be respectable. And certainly I have that within me. I tell you, not only do I watch out sort of as a minister, as a part of a community, this community of faith, the larger community, I not only want to make sure I'm doing what's right, that I'm acting in a way I should act, but I'm also careful to act in a way so it doesn't look like I might be doing something that I shouldn't be doing. Right? I don't want to be in a place where it might look like I'm doing something wrong. Put myself in a position where others might see it and go, what's he up to? Right? It's my desire to be respected. There's probably a good thing about that. But to a point. What happens when my desire to be a respectable person clashes with my desire as a Christian to be like Jesus. What happens when our desire to be respectable, to be seen by others as being respectable, clashes with our desire to be like Jesus? It's easy for us to do this. It's respectability. The thing, again, up to a point, but then also it can blind us. We can get so caught up in the idea of respectability, we only want to hang out with a certain kind of person, a certain kind of place. And so we have our safe places and our safe people that we can be with, and we have our homes that we guard and make sure nobody that's not respectable, the wrong people get in there. We have our work, hopefully we can keep the wrong people out of there. And we get in our air-conditioned cars and we go between all these places and we keep our blinders on. For all of those people that aren't viewed by society as being the right people. The wrong people, we do not see them. We keep those blinders on, we speed right past them. One thing I love, and I think it's one of the great benefits of one of our outreaches here, the Highland Blessing Dinner. The Highland Blessing Dinner happens every week, but we participate in it the first Thursday of every month. So it's coming up a week from this Thursday. It's at the Highland Center, and it's a free meal. And there's a big sign out front if you've ever been past the Highland Center, free meals, Thursdays. And we participate. There are people there that are serving the food to those who need the food. And then there are people who are, this is great, there are people who are sitting with them at round tables. Every round table has a volunteer sitting with people, talking with them, chatting, hearing their stories. You see, it's a chance for us to break that down. That first thing we need to do, the willingness to see. Willingness to see and to recognize there are people in need around us. And often those people are the wrong people. The wrong kind of people who make the wrong kind of choices in this world. Society's telling us they're not the right people to be with. But that's when real ministry happens. See, Jesus had a way of doing that. He holds this up to us throughout his ministry, and we see it over and over and over again. When Jesus is walking along, and he sees Zacchaeus, the traitor, up in a tree, and he stops. Jesus is walking along, and he sees the woman who's about to be stoned for adultery, and he stops. And Jesus had a way of engaging everyone he saw along the way, and he knew the first way to do that, the first thing we need to do is to be able to open our eyes to them. Be able to see them. All the people around us. We may have this instinct to put people in this category and that. But we have to be able to really to see all the people. All the folks out there if we're going to be of help to them. And I tell you, the people who volunteer, the people who come to get a free meal at the Highland Blessing Dinner, they are fed they're fed physically. They're also fed spiritually because they're engaged and people talk to them and want to know their stories. But who is fed the most spiritually there are the people who volunteer. That's how we are blessed, by engaging others. And sometimes in our pride, in our respectability, we don't want to engage those that we view or others view as the wrong kind of people. Our respectability does something else to us. Instead of engaging them, instead of wanting to see what we can do to help, instead of understanding, trying to imagine what it's like to be in their situation, what we want to do, right when we see somebody that we view to be the wrong kind of person, is we want to judge them. See, it makes us feel better to think the universe has some order to it and that somebody who's in a bad situation has done something to deserve it. They deserve to be in that bad situation. And there's a part of us who, yes, we'll minister to people who are suffering from some accident, right? A fire, a tornado, something beyond their control, or simply some bad luck. Oh man, and we feel good about giving to those people and helping them out. But people who are in a bad situation because they have made bad choices. They have made bad choices. I think there's a part in each of us that said, well, they have made their bed, now let's let them lie in it. There's this group of people who are in need, it's bad luck. And then there's this other group that's in need because of bad choices. And one thing we see in the gospel, Jesus never made that distinction. Jesus never made that distinction. He would help people who found themselves with leprosy through no fault of their own. They were in a bad situation. It's just a bad thing that could happen to any good person, and he would help them. And then he would also help the people that he found, like the woman caught in adultery who had done something wrong, He gave her a new start, basically. This chance to engage the people without the blame, without the judgment. Because Jesus would look at these folks, and you know what I think Jesus saw? Or he realized, he knew, is that people in a bad place, because of their bad decisions, they are on their way somewhere else. Right? They're in a bad place, bad decision, but they are moving to some different spot. We're all doing that. We're all moving from where we are now to a different place. Jesus saw that potential in them, the fact that they're moving on to something else, and he wanted to be a part of leading them in the path that was going to bring blessings into their lives. Give them a new start in life. He wanted to be a part of that. He didn't see that one mistake or that series of mistakes frozen in time, and that's all he was ever going to see of them. We tend to do that. I've been guilty of that over and over many times, looking at somebody and still seeing some mistake they made 20 years ago. Still seeing some mistake they made 6 months ago. All right? And that's how I define them. Jesus defined people not by where they were in that moment, but where they could go. Their future. Their potential. That's one of the things about our respectability we want to make sure that we watch. It's this tendency to want to blame people for where they are right now instead of seeing where they're going to go. But I'll tell you, there is one valid concern. And I think this is valid. And it is important. As we think about the wrong people making bad choices, it is good for us to engage them. It is good for us to be with them and to minister to them, inasmuch as we are influencing them more than they are influencing us. Now, this is, and boy, if you are like me, you know this lesson. Right? You go out with somebody intending to be a good influence on them, and they end up being a bad influence on you. One way or another, it could be in 1,000 different ways, 1,000 different temptations we can fall into and fall prey to, and we can say to ourselves, well, I have given that up. I'm going to quit. Let's say, for instance, I'm going to quit gossiping in a mean-spirited way, and I'm going to go out with my friend who always likes to gossip with me in a mean-spirited way, but I'm not going to gossip with him in that way. I'm not going to do it. You go out with him, he ends up influencing you more. Yeah, we need to watch out for that. We need to make sure that if somebody is out there that is going to influence us, pull us down, well, that may be one person who is making some bad choices that we do need to stay away from. Of course, Jesus didn't have to worry about that. Everyone Jesus met, he tried to pull out. And he did if they allowed him. He did. And nobody ever pulled him down. He didn't have to worry about that. But that's something that we as his followers need to worry about, need to think about. Jesus had a way of taking people in one condition and encountering them and leaving them in another condition. Brand new. Or at least polished up. Maybe not brand new, but polished up. You've probably seen the signs driving around. Well, you see these all over the place. These little places that have all the stuff out front, all the old things out in the front of the store, and there's things hanging all over the store, and the sign out front says, "We buy junk, we sell antiques." I think that's the way Jesus was. Right? Jesus was going around seeing things that others saw as junk, and he was showing us the value that exists there. But hey, here's the number one lesson. Number one thing I want you to take away today. Okay? Right people, wrong people. The message of the gospel is this. We are all the wrong people. If we start going around saying this person's guilty and this person's not, and this person's good and this person's bad, we start denying the fact that we have all sinned. We have all fallen short. We are all broken. And we need to recognize that, because that's another part of the gospel, is Jesus has come here, and through him we have been cleansed. We have been saved. We have been set free. When we start deciding who we're dividing up people into right and wrong, yes and no, we need to remember we all need Christ. We all come to him and we bow to him, and we are cleansed by him. Let me close with this little story. It's an ancient story. The old shipbuilders, the Phoenicians, they would build these wonderful ships that would sail all around the Mediterranean, taking trade goods and passengers back and forth. And the shipbuilders, before they laid the main mast, it's the last step in building the ship, laying the main mast right there, they would put at the bottom of that hole a gold coin. A gold coin down there where no one would ever see it. And there it would be under the heavy mast. And they did that because no matter what happened to that ship, no matter if it ran up against the rocks, no matter if it was beached up on the shore, these builders knew that if you knew the secret, you would see the treasure that existed there. You would know that that ship still has value. Well, that's the way I picture Jesus. He's going among the wreckage that all of us have, and finding there the value that's within us and the promise that exists there. And each of us experience that in our lives. And each of us make it possible for others to experience that sense of value and that sense of love as well. Let's bow in prayer. Loving God, thank you for giving us the opportunity to meet so many in this world, so many varied people. Loving God, help us to open our eyes to all the people of this world, of all the needs that exist. And dear Lord, help us to come to those folks and help us to do part of your work in this world by showing them their value. And Lord, help us as broken people to feel that as well in our lives. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. Well,